When the very first Synchro Cup was born. There was a double round robin, and LEVON ARONIAN, HIKARU Nakamura, Magnus Carlsen, and Gata Kamsky. And what games they were. And these two players, HIKARU and LEVON, I think know one another really, really well at this point.
They know inside
and I just don't know what separates the two, right? There is something where fast chess is concerned, and I'll just use that expression for the moment, that gives HIKARU the upper hand, whether he calculates a little bit faster, whether he's just better in terms of exploiting a time advantage, but something gives him an edge. Whereas in classical chess, I think it's an absolute pick 'em. You know,
I think part of what it is that HIKARU is so incredibly good at punishing sloppiness. And in rapid, now, first of all, who am I to criticize? This is not a criticism of LEVON, but in comparison to HIKARU, LEVON can from time to time commit, some sloppy inaccuracies. And HIKARU is absolutely merciless in the way that he punishes even the tiniest mistake. He just doesn't let you off the hook ever. And we have another Bishop's opening.
And we do indeed. And it was a very, for me, a surprise decision to capture so quickly on c3, because I'm thinking that after bishop b3 and you capture, I'll recapture with the a pawn, knight b3, a b3, I think you've done White a great service, which is why he didn't go for the capture right away. As, by the way, the a file would be open, capturing towards the center and so forth and so on. And instead, h7, h6, just to stop bishop g5 and maybe some unpleasantries of the spin.
I like this LEVON. He's preparing f4.
Precisely. You took the words of Meatloaf. You took the words right out of my mouth. f2, f4. It's something you definitely want to achieve as White, especially in this bishop's opening. And if you can do that with nothing untoward happening like d6, d5, White's for choice.
No, I think White is definitely for choice. And it just seems to me, to echo your point, I think HIKARU may have rushed the trade on c3, which, yes, it looks good to kind of damage White's pawn structure, but this is not a bad structure. And HIKARU taking some drastic measures to prevent f4. Okay. All right, game on.
You bet. It sure is game on. I mean, making a virtue out of necessity, because again, if White gets in f4 relatively unencumbered, it's advantage White. Now, the problem with g5, obviously, is the f5 square, like full stop right there.
Yes,
like, I want to sync. Right. So we start with the move rook e1, Kramnik's move. And then we start thinking, how do we route our knight to towards the f5 square, maybe play for d3, d4, although that is something where a very fine understanding of timing is going to be concerned. I'd be much happier solving the knight's issue first. Okay.
No, I completely agree. So I think knight f1 here is very good. You should definitely start with that. Now, interesting idea by HIKARU to provoke f3, which does create a hook, which means that g4 might be on the cards at some point, but probably not in the near future, because Black is not ready for that yet.
Exactly. Just the way HIKARU has played it with the move bishop e6, by the way, the old guys would have looked really hard at bishop a4 check there. And the idea is that if you do play the move c7, c6, the knight on a5 is a little bit offsides. And so after c6, c3, c4, you have to be careful that bishop d2 doesn't embarrass you, right? You know what I'm saying? Bishop d2 and rook b1, and you get embarrassed. Now, bishop a4 check normally got answered with bishop d7 to deny White the two bishops. But in that case, I get the f5 square. So there was something to be said for bishop a4, knight f1, played rather quickly.
Right. So now, in response to knight f1, Hikaru answering with knight h5, heading toward f4.
Right.
And asking Levon a question: do you want to play g3 and weaken your king?
I do.
Obviously, pawns don't go backwards, but you do. You
I
want
do.
to get rid of this knight.
Asked and answered. Yeah, I definitely want that knight. I don't care. It can hang out on g6. It can hang out on h3. I don't
anywhere
care. Get
but
out
here.
of here. Yeah, f4 is
not on my porch.
Well, it's the tenders. I gotta protect the tender squares. f4 is a tender square, and again, g3. If you go knight g6, yeah, I want to post up on f5. I want to go knight f5, and if you take it, yeah, I'll recapture with a tempo against the knight on g6, which is why I'm saying I am induced to playing the move g3, because I can see opportunities how I can really take advantage of the knight being on g6. Again, I also once again go back to an earlier point, which was bishop a4 check is still a rather meaningful check.
And especially now, because bishop d7 doesn't look appealing anymore. I would definitely consider that check very seriously now.
Exactly.
And c6 might walk into d5 because, to borrow your phraseology, there's a tender pawn on d6, and that bishop from a3 and queen from d1 might have something to say about that. That might turn into a chicken tender, which the bishop would like to very much eat.
Exactly. And again, when we're doing all of these wonderful things, the b file is suddenly a little bit open, so that bishop a4 check, c6, d5, rook b1.
There it is. King
and
f8,
there it is.
maybe it should be what Hikaru's. Maybe Hikaru just plays king f8, doesn't want to weaken that pawn, but exactly. That's king a pretty f8? Committal decision.
Yeah, king f8. I'm looking at rook b1, and I don't know. I feel like an initiative here is really coming up maybe faster than black can handle.
The only thing that worries me slightly is already the time situation for Levon. He's got 6 minutes, and there's nothing's been decided yet. Position's still very uncertain.
By the way, it is important to note that Levon did not play the move g2, g3 at just at the time that I was kind of like suggesting it to take place. Like if g3 and knight g6 had been included, there would be, again, whether you're happy about it or not, that's a different matter, but knight d5 would have been something you can think about. But now with the knight on f4 as black, there is no knight d5. So for the moment, the knight on f4 lives, and as long as the knight is hanging out there, there's always vague, attacking chances that you should not underestimate.
No, and Levon, in the meantime, is down to 5 minutes. I feel like he's probably agonizing over whether to play g3, and yes, or maybe black can meet g3 with rook g8, something like that, and there's a lot to calculate there.
Yes, but that's a very important thing. If you play g3 and you include the moves g3 and rook g8, it's just kind of nice because I can let that sit. I can just let that brew, right?
Right.
And you can't play king g7. So then I start thinking,
then I take the knight.
Right. And then I start thinking about the idea that you suggested, which is to take on e5 and this bishop a3 check, getting some side action. By the way, knight g4.
Interesting move. I like that.
Definitely.
I like that move.
The queen, maybe not a happy camper on g7. You go queen g7. Can I take on e5 and put a bishop on e7? I think bingo, you got it. That was
we're on the same wavelength.
Right?
I'd have 6.
Did you get the same script I got?
I got it. Yeah, I've been holding on to it. And the problem is, somebody might look at this and say, well, what's the problem? Black can just take on g4, but giving up such a light squared bishop, I mean, look at all the squares that white gets. Let's not forget that the knight on a5 is still out of the game. That's right. Bringing it back into the game is associated with its own risks. Bishop takes c6 and queen. No, this doesn't look appetizing in the least, despite what the eval bar is saying.
Exactly. Again, and these are two human beings, and they understand exactly what we're talking about here, which is the bishop in the open positions where I've got command of the d file. And by the way, the black's king is still not solved, its home address and where it really
No.
belongs. So in that variation that we were just talking about, where the bishop comes to e7, even if the bishop didn't come all the way to e7, black still has got serious issues. Wow, queen g6. So the idea is, if I take on e5 to play h5, I believe. I think that's his intention.
Not bishop takes g4.
Right. And how about them
Cool
apples?
idea.
You don't see it every day.
My kid's wicked smart. Wow.
Wicked smart.
No, this is too brazen, giving up that knight on g4.
Right.
I don't even want to calculate.
But there is knight f6. You can take on e5. I got a check, a hakasito, to quote our 6-time, or is it 5-time US champion Walter Brown? 6-time, I think. Hakasito.
Nice. And this, again, I mean, I feel like most of these two bishops versus two knights positions, if LeVon can force a position like that, he'll be in good shape. Guess what? This is exactly what's on the board. And maybe black shouldn't rush with d takes e5. Can a case be made for something like king g7?
Yes, that's a very, very good point as well. In case of king g7, I was looking at the move queen d4, not the usual kind of post-up move that you used to seeing, because the knight on a5 is hanging.
Oh, I was like, what? And knight c4 by Hikaru is the best move.
Wow.
He is taking over the initiative here, I think. That,
my goodness, what a
has
move.
All of the ideas of king g7 and none of the drawbacks. You get the knight out of dodge, back into the game.
Exactly.
You can't take on d6. Is black taking over the initiative?
Wow. Talk about outfoxing your opponent. And that's really beautiful timing. Okay, so let's look at concretely now, Danya. Knight d7 check.
Okay.
Bishop takes d7, I'm assuming. Bishop takes d7, knight takes e5, I'm assuming. Bishop f5. Now, this is a very unusual position, but I got to tell you, those cavalry, the knight's got two very good squares, e5 and f4.
Right.
And I'm not thinking that the bishops are strutting their stuff at this moment, but how would you evaluate this? This is a toughie.
I like this for black. I mean, knight d7 check, LeVon is LeVon's move. So this is happening. Bishop d7, bishop d7. The engine likes d takes e5 after bishop d, which I did personally is a surprise, but Hikaru plays it instantly.
Wow. That is not an intuitively obvious move, because your natural precondition is to think, oh my gosh, the knight looks so good on e5.
Right.
But this one introduces queen b6 check and queen f2.
Yep, and rook d8 is on deck as well. So for example, bishop f5, there's a little check, hakasito.
Right.
King h1. Even a simple move like king g7 creates a huge threat of rook d8 when the queen is simply trapped. Oh, my lands.
I know. I was thinking queen f2, but yeah, I feel you. Whoa. So rook b1 to stop queen b6, but he does invite a pin. And yes, I'm just loath to allow those types of pins.
Pincito here.
Yeah, I am. Wow. I mean, d6 takes e5 again, as you said, played instantly, and that was the #1 computer move. Remarkable.
I mean, it's honestly unbelievable, and what's unbelievable is how quickly the game turns around. We thought that if anyone's in the driver's seat, it's firmly LeVon.
Right. Yeah.
But now look at this position. The bishop is almost lost. Can Hikaru find a way to get to the bishop? Because LeVon's taking his pawns, lining his pockets. Oh, what a move. What a move. Queen b6 wins the rook. It's over, I think. He's going to lose the bishop.
As bishop takes f4 with the intention to play queen d5.
But what if I take Your rook first, then you play bishop.
Then I
takes
take
g5.
bishop takes g5, and I'm hoping.
f6, f6.
No, f6.
Well, no,
you're right.
you can play it after queen b6 check. You force the bishop back, and then rook h7 picks up the other bishop.
Oh, you're right.
No way! What a game! Rook h7.
Oh,
Or is that not the move because of queen d5? Let's see. I'm sure there's
Let's
probably
pause.
more than one.
because that bishop is just so terrible. I mean, I couldn't find the right word, but you did see queen d5, knight
e2.
Queen e2, same
I think
idea.
I know what HIKARU wants. I think he wants to take and go rook d1.
Simple chess.
And it's queen e3 is streaming in. Black's king is perfectly safe. So that was his home address. It never left.
Never moved.
Right.
Wow.
Hey, I could put my home there.
Another spectacular game in the series, I want to say, between these two great players. I mean, both players can somehow be happy with what they did. I mean, HIKARU is just a beast.
And HIKARU is on another level, and he's one of those players. I mean, as the tournament goes on, some players get tired and they get a little worn down. It's like HIKARU merely increases the pressure that he puts on each subsequent opponent. He started off a little bit slowly, poking and prodding. Who did he beat in the first round? It wasn't Fedoseev. It was Grishuk. Oh, let's not forget
Exactly.
he beat Sasha Grishuk.
That was a beautiful win as well.
Working man's, hard game.
Right.
But now it's escalated to the point where he just destroys Levon from what seemed like a worse position.
Exactly.
But how does it's still not quite over.
The head bopping, I think he's got this because I'm seeing a very direct route of rook e1, bishop e1, rook d1, king f1, and then rook to c1.
Ah.
Oof.
Oh,
Oof.
no. And then queen takes c2 is coming. And
exactly.
White never has perpetual. Black's king is surrounded by too many pawns and has too many escape routes. I just don't see this happening for Lev.
There's no perp walk there at all.
No, it's
and Levon recognizes this. By the way, another not so difficult move is maybe even queen to c1, setting up ideas of rook to d2.
Yep. But I like
it. All looks good. It all looks good for Black. I think
HIKARU, knowing HIKARU, I think he's going to go for the concrete approach. When possible, he tries to, as should anybody, try to go down the forcing line.
Yeah, the forcing line's always the ones I analyze first. Because if I can see, and Michael Tall had a great quote, and we should all take this quote to heart. All you need is one win per game. That's all you need. So if you can calculate a win, you play it, right? I mean, so one win per game. And king f1, rook e1,
king g7 by HIKARU was actually the top engine move, believe it or not.
No way, really. Just
it's on another level.
Because it's like White is helpless, so just avoid even a potential appearance.
Inkling. Check on c5 even later.
If you slap yourself, wake up. If you dream that you were going to make a perpetual check.
Well, it's like Petrosian. He stops your threats before you know you have them.
Right. Yeah.
Queen back to f7, and now he's got a little small pawn here on a5, which is just a little bit past.
Can grow to be a monster.
Yep, and I think
the
growth
bishop
is going to start now.
But bishop g3, some
little something. I agree.
Queen
f4.
Levon needs something to hope. Bishop queen f4. That's just nasty.
It's a flawless game.
Really, it is.
h3, Levon trying to create some luft. One last hurrah. Queen takes h5 is an idea. Never mind.
Let's shut that down. What did you say? An idea.
Okay, what if queen h5? I guess there's rook
h8, queen e3 check. And...
sending the queen back to
right.
e2.
You're going backwards. That's exactly right.
And then
And-
finally, the pawn is going to start moving.
Bingo. That's exactly what's happening. And in the meantime, it's like white would like to put his king somewhere, salient. Whoa, rook d2. Can I capture on f2? Is that a winning? Rook
I
d2,
think
queen e1.
It is winning because while the white king stops the pawn, the black king can make its way to f4 and eliminate this pawn. I think that's exactly what Hikaru is going to spend the next
Right.
2 seconds calculating, and there it is.
Yeah, and we're thinking queen f2. Again, 1 win per game is all you need.
Right.
And if you can calculate queen f2, a5, king e2, a4, king e, and then bring your king to h6 or f6 and g5 and win the g2 pawn.
It's easy.
It's easy.
Easy
So we're
win.
expect queen f2, and that's exactly what you can see. Hikaru
Wow.
looking in the air, and that was exactly what he was calculating.
You do not want to be on the other side of that. When Hikaru is looking in the air, you know something's coming, and he doesn't even need to push a5. Look at that. He doesn't even need to push this pawn. It's the threat of it that's keeping white's king at bay, and I think Levon is going to resign right here and right now.
Wow. Wow.
And he does. What a game.
What a
I mean,
this was a series of great matches. And I want to just say, Danya, we got faded and treated to some really high quality chess. I mean, the players who lost these matches played really well. I mean,
they
what
did.
can I say?
There wasn't a single bad game.